The morning started like any other day at the Terra Defense Station. Dr. Lisa Grant sat at her desk, drinking her third cup of coffee and watching the computer screens that showed space around Earth. For 20 years, she had done this job. For 20 years, nothing interesting had happened. The screens showed the same things they always did. Satellites moving in their paths around Earth. Space junk floating where it should not be. Sometimes a meteor that burned up before it could hurt anyone. Lisa had grown tired of the quiet work, but someone had to watch the skies. At exactly 9:47 in the morning, everything changed. All the screens began flashing red at once. Alarms started ringing so loud that Lisa dropped her coffee cup. The hot liquid spilled across her desk, but she did not care. She had never seen the computers act like this before. "What is happening?" she said out loud, even though no one else was in the room. The main screen showed a message that made her heart beat fast. "Unknown signal detected. Alien origin confirmed. Priority 1, emergency." Lisa's hands shook as she pressed the red button that would alert the government. She had trained for this moment, but she never thought it would really happen. After 30 years of silence from space, something was finally trying to talk to Earth. The signal was coming from far away, beyond the edge of their solar system. It was not like radio waves or any kind of message that humans used. This was something completely different. Something that their computers could barely understand. Within 1 hour, President Jake Morrison was sitting in the underground bunker beneath the White House. With him were the most important people in the country. General Amy Rodriguez commanded all of Earth's armies. Admiral Chris Bailey was in charge of the spaceships. Sam Turner knew more about aliens than anyone else on Earth, even though he had never actually met one. "Show me what we have," President Morrison said. Dr. Grant had been brought to the bunker by helicopter. She was still wearing her coffee-stained shirt. Her voice was nervous as she explained what had happened. "The signal is definitely from aliens, sir. Our computers have been trying to translate it for the past hour. It is not easy, but we are starting to understand parts of it." Sam Turner looked at the data on his tablet. His face was serious. "Mr. President, this is not a friendly greeting. This is a cry for help." The main screen in the room lit up with words. The translation was not perfect, but the meaning was clear enough to make everyone in the room feel cold. "To the species known as humans in the Sol system, we are the Galactic Council. We have avoided contact with your kind for many years because we feared your violent nature. But now we have no choice. We need your help." President Morrison read the words twice. "Go on." More words appeared on the screen. "An ancient enemy has awakened. They call themselves the Devourers. They are machines, not living beings. They sleep for millions of years, then wake up to destroy everything. They have returned." General Rodriguez leaned forward in her chair. "How bad is it?" The next part of the message answered her question. "In the past 30 days, the Devourers have destroyed 15 star systems. Billions of people are dead. Our most powerful weapons do nothing to them. Our fastest ships cannot escape them. They are coming for all of us." Admiral Bailey looked confused. "Why are they asking us for help? We have never even left our own solar system except for a few trips to Mars." Sam Turner had been quiet, but now he spoke. "Because 30 years ago, when we first met aliens, we did something that scared them." Everyone in the room remembered that day. Humans had been so excited to meet aliens that they had sent ships to greet them. But the aliens had thought the ships were attacking. The humans had thought the aliens were attacking. The fight that followed had been short, but terrible. "The aliens have been afraid of us ever since," Sam continued. "They put up barriers around our solar system to keep us away from the rest of the galaxy. But now they are so desperate that they are willing to ask us for help." The final part of the message was the most important. "We know that humans are dangerous. We know that you solve problems with violence. This is exactly what we need now. The Devourers cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be stopped with treaties or negotiations. They must be destroyed." The message ended with coordinates showing where the alien fleet was located. They were 3 weeks away from Earth, even traveling at the fastest speed human ships could manage. President Morrison stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the city where millions of people were living their normal lives. They had no idea that aliens were asking for their help to save the galaxy. "General Rodriguez," he said without turning around, "how fast can we mobilize our forces?" "All of them, sir? That would take at least a week, maybe 2. You have 3 days." Admiral Bailey almost choked on his water. "Sir, with respect, we have maybe 50 ships that can travel in space. The aliens are talking about an enemy that destroyed entire solar systems." President Morrison turned around. His eyes were hard and determined. "Admiral, you are thinking like the aliens do. You are thinking about the size of our fleet and the power of our weapons. But that is not what makes humans dangerous." He walked back to the table and put his hands on it. "What makes us dangerous is that when someone asks for help, we do not count the cost. We do not calculate the odds. We just say yes and figure out how to win later." General Rodriguez smiled for the first time since the meeting started. "Should I alert all military bases?" "All of them. Army, Navy, Air Force, Space Force, Marines. I want every ship, every soldier, and every weapon we have ready to move. And General?" "Yes, sir." "Send a message back to the aliens. Tell them we are coming. Tell them to get their people to safety. Tell them that when humans go to war, we do not leave anyone behind." As the meeting ended and people rushed to carry out their orders, Dr. Lisa Grant sat quietly in her chair. She thought about how her boring job had just become the most important work in human history. Outside the bunker, across the world, phones started ringing. Military bases came alive with activity. Ships that had been sitting in harbors for years began preparing for a journey to the stars. Humanity had received a desperate plea for help from strangers they had never met. And true to their nature, they said yes without hesitation. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans decided to go to war. Captain Rick Stone had been eating breakfast when his phone rang. He almost did not answer it because he was enjoying his day off, but when he saw who was calling, he knew his peaceful morning was over. "Stone here," he said. "Captain, this is Admiral Bailey. Report to Luna Base immediately. Bring your crew." Rick looked out his window at the Earth below. His apartment was on the moon, where he commanded one of the new ships that most people did not know existed. "Sir, is this a drill?" "No drill, Captain. This is the real thing. We are going to war." Within 6 hours, Rick was standing on the bridge of the UES Retribution. The ship was huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built before. Most people on Earth thought that humans only had small research ships that could barely reach Mars. They were wrong. For 30 years, ever since the first contact with aliens, humans had been secretly building warships. They had been preparing for the day when the galaxy might threaten Earth. They never expected to be the ones traveling across space to help others. Lieutenant Kate Williams was checking the weapons systems. She was young but smart, and Rick trusted her completely. "Captain, all weapons are ready. We have enough ammunition to fight for months." Rick nodded and looked at the main screen. It showed dozens of other ships just like his, all preparing to leave Luna Base. But that was just the beginning. On Mars, Admiral Helen Davis was watching as her fleet prepared for departure. The UES Defiance was the largest ship humans had ever built. It was so big that it had taken 5 years to construct and another 2 years to train a crew large enough to operate it. "Ma'am," said Ensign Bob Clark from his station, "we are receiving launch confirmations from all bases. Luna Base reports 50 ships ready. Titan Base has 30 more. The asteroid belt factories are sending 40 cargo ships full of supplies." Helen smiled. The aliens thought they were asking a small, primitive species for help. They had no idea what humans had been building in secret. "What about the orbital platforms?" she asked. "All 12 defense platforms have been converted to mobile weapons, ma'am. They will travel with the fleet." Helen had helped design those platforms. They were supposed to protect Earth from alien invasion. Each one carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Now they would travel across the galaxy to fight an enemy that no one had ever defeated. Dr. Alex Murphy was in his laboratory, working on the message that would be sent to the aliens. He had spent his entire life studying alien languages, even though humans had never been allowed to talk to aliens before. "Are you sure they will understand it?" asked his assistant, Dr. Jenny Adams. Alex looked at the translation one more time. It was simple and direct, the way humans preferred to communicate. Message received. Help is coming. Estimated arrival, 6 days. Recommend immediate evacuation of civilian populations from combat zones. Terran Expeditionary Force does not take prisoners. Prepare for total war. "That sounds a bit threatening," Jenny said. Alex smiled. "Good. The aliens need to understand that we are not coming to play games. We are coming to win." Across the solar system, humans were preparing for war in ways that the galaxy had never seen before. On Earth, factories that had been making cars and computers suddenly started making weapons and armor. People who had been living normal lives suddenly found themselves being called to serve their species. In the military bases, soldiers were learning how to fight in space. Most of them had never been off Earth before, but they were eager to try. Sergeant Tom Baker was teaching his men how to use the new weapons that had been designed specifically for fighting machines. "Remember," he told them, "these devourers are not alive. They do not feel fear or pain, but they also do not understand human tactics. They expect enemies to be logical and predictable. We are going to show them what happens when they fight humans." Lieutenant Nancy White was in charge of the Marine dropships. These were small, fast ships designed to carry soldiers directly into battle. They were not pretty or comfortable, but they could land on enemy ships and deliver troops exactly where they were needed. "The plan is simple," she explained to her pilots. "We get in close, we land on their ships, and we let the Marines do what they do best. The Devourers have never fought an enemy that was willing to board their ships and fight hand to hand." In the engineering sections, Chief Engineer Mike Ross was making final preparations to the ships. He had been working for 3 days straight, making sure that every engine, every weapon, and every system was working perfectly. "Sir," said one of his technicians, "some of these modifications are not in the manual." Mike laughed. "That is the point. We are not going to fight like the manual says. We are going to fight like humans." The modifications were simple but effective. Extra armor welded onto the ships in places where it was not supposed to go. Weapons mounted in unexpected locations. Engines that had been tuned to go faster than they were designed for. "The aliens fight with computers and careful planning," Mike explained. "We fight with whatever works. If it looks stupid but it wins the battle, then it is not stupid." As the final preparations were made, President Morrison made a speech that was broadcast to every human in the solar system. He stood in front of the flag of Earth, looking directly into the camera. "My fellow humans," he began, "today we received a call for help from people we have never met. They are facing an enemy that wants to destroy all life in the galaxy. They asked us for help because they have heard that humans are dangerous." He paused and looked serious. "They are right. We are dangerous. We are dangerous to anyone who threatens innocent people. We are dangerous to anyone who thinks that might makes right. We are dangerous to anyone who believes that some lives are worth more than others. In 6 days, our fleet will reach the battle zone. We do not know if we will win. We do not know if we will all come home, but we know that we cannot stand by and watch while good people are murdered by machines. To our enemies, the Devourers, I have this message. You made a mistake when you decided to threaten the galaxy. You made an even bigger mistake when you forced people to call humans for help. We are coming for you, and we will not stop until you are destroyed. To the people of the galaxy who are waiting for help, hold on. Humans are coming." The broadcast ended, and across the solar system, the final preparations began. Ships that had been hidden for decades moved into position. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives for a war that might never come suddenly found themselves preparing for the most important battle in galactic history. Captain Stone stood on the bridge of the Retribution and watched as the fleet assembled. More than 4,000 ships, from massive battleships to tiny fighters. 2 million soldiers, Marines, pilots, and crew members. The largest military force that humanity had ever assembled. "All ships report ready for departure," Lieutenant Williams announced. Rick opened a communication channel to the entire fleet. "This is Captain Stone to all vessels. Today we leave our home to help people we have never met fight an enemy we have never seen. Some of you are afraid, that is normal. Some of you are excited, that is also normal. But remember this, we are not just representing Earth today. We are representing the idea that good people should help each other, no matter what the cost. The galaxy is about to learn what humans do when someone asks for our help. All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump. Destination, Kalos system. Let us go show the galaxy what humans can do. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind the safety of their solar system. They were traveling toward a battle that would determine the fate of billions of lives. Behind them, Earth continued to turn peacefully in space. But the humans were no longer hiding behind their barriers. They were bringing their own kind of justice to the stars. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kalos system, and Captain Rick Stone immediately knew they were too late to save the planet. The fourth world in the system was gone. Where there had once been a green and blue planet with millions of people, there was now only glowing debris and strange metal ships that looked like massive insects. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Kate Williams from her station. "They really did it. They ate an entire planet." Rick stared at the main screen. The Devourer ships were unlike anything humans had ever imagined. They were huge, dark, and covered with what looked like metal teeth. Some were as large as cities, slowly chewing their way through the remains of the dead world. "Captain," said Communications Officer Dave Miller, "we are receiving a transmission from the surviving alien fleet." "Put it on screen." The image that appeared showed a creature that looked like a tall, thin human with blue skin and 4 arms. It was clearly exhausted and afraid. When it spoke, the computer translated its words into English. "Unknown vessels, this is Admiral Nixitar of the Valarian Defense Fleet. You must retreat immediately. These machines cannot be defeated. We had 300 ships when the battle began. Now we have 12. Rick opened a communication channel back to the alien. "Admiral Nixitar, this is Captain Rick Stone of the Terran Expeditionary Force. We received your call for help. We are here to destroy these machines." The alien stared at him for a long moment. "Terran? You mean human? But your species was quarantined. You have no experience with space warfare. These Devourers have technologies beyond your understanding." "Maybe," Rick said. "But they have never fought humans before. That might be the advantage we need." Before the alien could respond, the Devourer fleet detected the human ships. Dozens of the massive machines turned toward them, moving faster than something so large should be able to move. "All ships," Rick announced to the human fleet. "This is what we came here to do. Remember your training. These machines think like computers. Be unpredictable. Be chaotic. Be human." The first wave of Devourers attacked with perfect coordination. Their weapons were beams of energy that could cut through metal like it was paper. They moved in formations that were mathematically perfect, each ship covering the others with precise timing. The humans did not respond the way the machines expected. Commander Paul Harris led the first group of human fighters. Instead of forming neat battle lines like the aliens did, the human ships scattered in all directions. Some flew straight at the enemy, others attacked from above and below. A few actually flew backward while shooting. "This is insane," muttered one of the Valarian observers. "They have no formation at all." But the lack of formation was exactly what confused the Devourers. Their computers tried to predict where the human ships would go next, but humans kept changing their minds. A fighter would start flying toward one target, then suddenly turn and attack something completely different. "Devourer ship on my left," called out pilot Jenny Stone over the radio. "I am going to ram it." "Negative, Jenny," responded her squadron leader. "Use your missiles." "Too late," Jenny said cheerfully. "Already committed to the ramming run." Her small fighter crashed into a Devourer ship that was 100 times larger. The explosion was not big enough to destroy the enemy, but it damaged their weapons and confused their targeting systems. The Devourers had never encountered an enemy that would destroy their own ships just to cause damage. Their programming had no response for such tactics. Major Lisa Johnson was leading the Marine assault teams. Her job was to get soldiers onto the enemy ships so they could plant explosives inside. It was dangerous work, but Marines were used to dangerous work. Remember, she told her troops as their dropships flew toward the nearest devourer, these things are machines. Find their computer centers and blow them up. Do not try to fight fair. There is no such thing as fighting fair when the galaxy is at stake. The dropships were small and fast. They dodged the enemy weapons and landed on the hull of a devourer ship, like insects landing on a whale. The Marines cut through the metal walls with plasma torches and disappeared inside. Sergeant Tom Baker found himself in a corridor that was clearly not designed for living creatures. Everything was made of metal, and there was no air to breathe. Good thing humans had brought their own air supplies. This way, he told his squad, reading the scanner that showed where the enemy computers were located. And remember, if it glows, shoot it. If it moves, shoot it. If it looks important, blow it up. The inside of the Devourer ship was a maze of mechanical parts and computer systems. The machines had never expected enemies to get inside their ships, so there were no defenses against boarders. Tom's squad reached the main computer core just as the ship's systems figured out that they were there. Mechanical defenders started appearing, but they were designed to fight other machines, not soldiers with guns. "Light it up," Tom ordered, and his squad began shooting everything in sight. The explosions that followed could be seen from outside the ship. The massive Devourer began spinning out of control as its computer systems failed. "Good work, ground teams," announced Admiral Helen Davis from the UES Defiance. "All ships, you are cleared to use nuclear weapons. These machines are not alive, so we do not need to worry about being humane." The human fleet began launching nuclear missiles at the Devourer ships. The aliens watched in amazement as the humans used their most powerful weapons without hesitation. "They are using atomic weapons in their first battle," Admiral Nixitar said to his crew. "What kind of species does that?" "The kind that wins wars," replied his tactical officer. But the humans were not finished. Captain Stone had noticed that the Devourers always tried to stay in perfect formation. So he ordered his ships to do something that no logical military force would ever do. "All ships, ram the enemy. Repeat, ram the enemy. Full-speed collisions. Make them scatter." Lieutenant Williams looked at him in shock. "Sir, that will destroy our ships." "Some of them," Rick agreed. "But it will also break up their formation. Once they are scattered, they cannot protect each other." Dozens of human ships began accelerating directly toward the Devourer fleet. Some were destroyed by enemy fire before they could reach their targets. But many others crashed into the massive machines, causing explosions that damaged multiple enemies at once. The Devourers had never faced an enemy that was willing to sacrifice ships and crew just to disrupt their tactics. Their computers began making errors as they tried to calculate responses to actions that made no logical sense. "Why are they destroying themselves?" transmitted one Devourer machine to another. "Unknown," came the reply. "This behavior does not match any recorded battle data." The battle continued for 6 hours. When it was over, the human fleet had lost 40 ships and 3,000 people, but the entire Devourer force had been destroyed. Admiral Nixtar could not believe what he was seeing. In 3,000 years of galactic warfare, no one has ever defeated a Devourer fleet. How did you do it? Captain Stone looked tired but satisfied. "We did not try to fight them the way they expected. We fought them the way humans fight. Messily, unpredictably, with complete disregard for our own safety." "But you lost so many ships," the alien said. "Yes," Rick replied. "And we will lose many more before this war is over. But that is what humans do. We sacrifice ourselves to protect others, even if those others are strangers from across the galaxy." The Valerian admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "We have been afraid of your species for 30 years. We thought you were dangerous because you were violent and unpredictable." "We are violent and unpredictable," Rick agreed. "But only toward our enemies. To our friends, we are the most loyal allies you could ever ask for." The news of the human victory at Kalos spread across the galaxy faster than light. For the first time in millions of years, someone had defeated the Devourers in battle. But this was only the beginning. The main Devourer fleet was still out there, consuming entire star systems. The humans had won one battle, but the war was far from over. As the human fleet prepared to move to the next system, Captain Stone sent a message to Earth. Mission accomplished. First contact with the enemy was successful. They are not invincible. Repeat, they are not invincible. We can beat them. Requesting all available reinforcements. The galaxy is counting on us. The response from Earth was immediate. Reinforcements are already on the way. Show them what humans can do. Rick smiled as he looked at the stars ahead. The Devourers had made a mistake when they woke up and decided to threaten the galaxy. They had forced the galaxy to ask humans for help, and humans always answered when someone called for help, no matter how dangerous the situation might be. The news of humanity's victory at Kalos spread across the galaxy like fire. In the great halls of the Galactic Council, species that had never spoken to each other began sharing the same impossible story. The humans had actually defeated a Devourer fleet. Chancellor Velson called an emergency meeting within hours of receiving the report. Representatives from 47 different species gathered in the council chambers, all asking the same question. How had a quarantined species with primitive technology accomplished what the galaxy's greatest civilizations could not? We must send a delegation immediately, announced Ambassador Krendar of the Zenthari Empire. We need to understand their capabilities before we proceed further. Agreed, said Science Leader Merkal. I volunteer to lead the mission. I have studied human transmissions for many years. 3 days later, Merkal's ship arrived at the human fleet's position near the Dracos system. What he found there challenged everything he thought he knew about warfare and civilization. The human ships were not sleek and beautiful like the vessels of advanced races. They were ugly, practical, and covered with modifications that made no sense according to standard engineering principles. Captain Julie Adams was welding additional armor plates to her fighter when the alien delegation arrived. "Welcome aboard," she said through her helmet radio, not bothering to stop her work. "Sorry about the mess. We are getting ready for the next battle." Merkal stared at the human woman. She was young, maybe 25 in Earth years, and she was personally modifying her own warship with tools that looked like they belonged in a primitive factory. "You modify your own vessels?" he asked. "Do you not have automated systems for such work?" Julie laughed and pulled off her welding helmet. "Sure we do, but automated systems only do what they are programmed to do. In battle, you need things that the programmers never thought of." She pointed to the missile launcher she had just attached to her ship's wing. "See this? According to the manual, it cannot be mounted there. The computer says it will interfere with the ship's balance, but I know my ship better than any computer does." Merkal made notes on his tablet. The humans were modifying their equipment based on personal experience rather than following established engineering protocols. It should not work, but somehow it did. His confusion grew when he met mechanic Pete Collins in the repair bay. Pete was jury-rigging a plasma cannon using parts from 3 different systems, none of which were designed to work together. "This should not be possible," Merkal said, watching Pete connect wires in ways that violated basic physics. "You are probably right," Pete agreed cheerfully. "But it shoots plasma bolts just fine, and that is all that matters. Sometimes the impossible things work better than the possible ones." "But how do you know it will not explode?" Pete shrugged. "I guess we will find out when we use it. If it explodes, we will build something else." Merkal was beginning to understand why the Devourers had lost. Their tactics were based on logical predictions and mathematical certainties. The humans seemed to base their tactics on hope, improvisation, and a willingness to try things that should not work. His next stop was the training area, where Colonel Beth Rogers was teaching alien volunteers how to fight like humans. A group of Zenthari warriors, the galaxy's most disciplined soldiers, were looking confused and frustrated. "The problem," Beth explained to them, "is that you are too good at following orders. In human combat, sometimes the best thing to do is ignore orders and make your own decisions." One of the Zenthari raised his hand. "But Colonel Rogers, how can we coordinate our attacks if everyone is making their own decisions?" Beth smiled. "You do not coordinate. You trust your teammates to do whatever needs to be done, and you do the same. It is messy and chaotic, but it works. She demonstrated by having the aliens attempt a mock battle against human Marines. The Zenthari formed perfect battle lines and executed textbook maneuvers. The humans scattered, hid behind obstacles, and attacked from unexpected directions. "You are not following any recognized tactics," complained the Zenthari squad leader after his troops had been destroyed for the third time. "Exactly," said Sergeant Tom Baker, who had led the human team. "If we followed recognized tactics, the enemy would know what we were going to do. The key to winning is to do things that the enemy cannot predict." Mercal watched the demonstration with growing amazement. The humans had turned unpredictability into a weapon. But the biggest shock came when he visited the command center of the UES Defiance. Admiral Helen Davis was planning the next attack against a Devourer stronghold, and her methods were unlike anything Mercal had ever seen. "The enemy has 15 major ships defending this system," she explained, pointing to a holographic display. "According to all standard tactical analysis, we would need at least 50 ships to have a reasonable chance of victory." "How many ships do you have?" Mercal asked. 22, Helen replied calmly. "That is impossible. You cannot win with such odds." Helen looked at him with the expression humans used when they thought someone was being silly. "Mercal, has anyone ever told you that something is impossible right before you watch them do it?" Before he could answer, she continued, "The Devourers think like you do. They calculate odds and probabilities. They assume that their enemies will do the logical thing, but humans do not always do the logical thing." She pointed to the tactical display. "The logical thing would be to attack their strongest position with our strongest force. Instead, we are going to split our fleet into 4 groups and attack from directions that make no tactical sense. But that will make your individual groups too weak to succeed." "Maybe," Helen agreed. "Or maybe it will confuse them so much that they make mistakes. The thing about impossible odds is that they only matter if you try to fight a logical battle." Mercal spent 3 more days with the human fleet, and every day brought new surprises. He watched engineers solve problems by hitting things with hammers. He saw pilots who flew their ships in ways that should have been fatal. He met soldiers who treated certain death as a minor inconvenience. But the moment that changed everything was when he witnessed a conversation between 2 human Marines who had volunteered for a suicide mission. "You know we are probably not coming back from this one," said Corporal Jim Taylor to his friend. "Probably not," agreed Private Bill Murphy. "But someone has to do it." "Any regrets?" Bill thought for a moment. "I wish I could see my daughter grow up, but if we do not stop these machines here, she might not get the chance to grow up anyway." Jim nodded. "My wife is going to be angry that I volunteered for this, but she will understand. She married a Marine. She knew what that meant." Mercal could not believe what he was hearing. These humans were calmly discussing their own deaths as if it was a minor problem. "Do you not fear dying?" he asked them. Both Marines looked at him in surprise. "Of course we do," Jim said. "Fear keeps you alive in battle. But fear does not make decisions. We do." "But why are you willing to die for people you have never met?" Bill smiled. "Because that is what humans do. We protect people who cannot protect themselves. It does not matter if they are human or alien. It does not matter if we know them or not. Good people deserve to live, and we are willing to die to make sure they can." That night, Mercal sent his report back to the Galactic Council. It was not what they expected to hear. "The humans are not superior to us in technology or intelligence," he wrote. "They are superior in something far more dangerous. They do not fear death when they are fighting for others. They do not calculate odds when lives are at stake. They do not follow logical tactics when illogical ones might work better. We have spent centuries building perfect weapons and perfect strategies. The humans have spent their time building perfect soldiers, soldiers who will do anything necessary to protect innocent people. The Devourers are machines. They think like machines. They plan like machines. They fight like machines. But humans do not think like machines. Humans think like humans. And that may be exactly what we need to win this war. I recommend that we give the humans complete command of all military operations. They understand something about warfare that we have forgotten. They understand that sometimes the most important victories are won not by the strongest army, but by the army that refuses to give up. When the Galactic Council received Mercal's report, they made a decision that would have been unthinkable just weeks before. They officially placed their entire military under human command. The species that had been quarantined for 30 years was now leading the defense of the galaxy. And for the first time since the Devourers had awakened, the people of the galaxy began to believe that they might actually survive. The humans had brought them something more valuable than advanced weapons or superior tactics. They had brought them hope. And hope, it turned out, was the one thing that machines could never understand or defeat. 6 months after the first battle at Kalos, the human fleet had grown to over 10,000 ships. Every day more vessels arrived from Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies. But even more surprising were the alien ships that had joined the human fleet. For the first time in galactic history, dozens of different species were fighting together under human command. Admiral Chris Bailey stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, looking at the tactical display that showed their target. The Devourer home system was ahead of them, a massive construct built around an ancient red giant star. The entire star was surrounded by metal structures that formed a sphere larger than any planet. This was where the Devourer intelligence lived, and where the war would be won or lost. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Dave Miller from the communications station, "all fleets report ready for the final assault. We have ships from 18 different species, including the Valerian heavy cruisers and the Zenthari assault squadrons." Chris nodded, but his attention was focused on the special project that Captain Jack Miller's engineering teams had been working on for the past month. It was not a weapon in the traditional sense. It was something far more dangerous to an enemy that thought like a computer. "How is our special equipment coming along?" he asked. Captain Miller grinned. "The audio transmitters are installed and tested, sir. Every human ship in the fleet can now broadcast on all frequencies simultaneously. We have enough power to be heard across the entire system." "And our message?" "Dr. Sarah Kim finished the recording yesterday. 2 million human voices, sir. Every soldier, pilot, engineer, and crew member in the fleet contributed. It should be impressive." The plan was simple, which made it typically human. The Devourers were machines that processed information logically. They had never encountered an enemy that would use pure emotion as a weapon. But humans understood that sometimes the most powerful weapon was not a gun or a missile, but the sound of people who refused to give up. "All ships," Admiral Bailey announced to the fleet, "this is the moment we have been preparing for. Today we end this war. Today we show the galaxy that no machine, no matter how powerful, can defeat people who are fighting for each other." The battle began exactly as planned. The human fleet, supported by their alien allies, attacked the outer defenses of the Devourer sphere. The enemy response was immediate and overwhelming. Thousands of machine ships poured out of the sphere like angry insects, their weapons cutting through space with deadly precision. Captain Rick Stone, now commanding a squadron of heavy destroyers, led the first attack wave. The UES Retribution had been rebuilt twice since the war began, and it was now more powerful than ever. "Remember the plan," he told his pilots. "We are not trying to win this battle with weapons. We are trying to confuse their computers long enough for the real attack to work." The human ships scattered in all directions, just as they had in their first battle. But this time, they had alien allies who had learned to fight like humans. Valerian cruisers flew in impossible formations. Zenthari fighters attacked from directions that made no tactical sense. Even the peaceful Kythani had armed their cargo ships and were ramming them into enemy positions. The Devourers had never faced such chaos. Their tactical computers began making errors as they tried to process battle data that followed no logical patterns. In the middle of the battle, Major Lisa Johnson led a massive boarding assault against the largest Devourer ships. Her Marines, now veterans of dozens of battles, moved through the enemy vessels like they owned them. "Remember," she told her troops as they cut through another metal wall, "these machines have been winning for millions of years because they fight the same way every time. But they have never fought humans before. Make them regret waking up." Sergeant Tom Baker was part of the team that reached the core of a major Devourer ship. What they found there was different from the other ships they had boarded. This one contained something that looked almost like a brain made of metal and light. "I think this is one of their commanders," he told his squad. "Let us give it something to think about." But instead of just planting explosives, Tom did something that no one expected. He activated his radio and began transmitting directly into the Devourer's communication systems. "Hey, machine," he said. "My name is Tom Baker. I am from a planet called Earth. We got your message about destroying all life in the galaxy, and we decided we did not like it, so we came here to stop you." The machine intelligence tried to respond, but Tom kept talking. "You probably think you are superior to us because you live forever and we do not. But you know what? We do not need to live forever. We just need to live long enough to make sure our friends are safe, and that is exactly what we are going to do." The explosions that followed destroyed the ship and its commander, but more importantly, Tom's message was recorded by the Devourer network and transmitted to their central intelligence. For the first time in millions of years, the Devourers began to experience something they had never felt before: uncertainty. As the battle raged around the sphere, Admiral Bailey gave the order that would change everything. "All ships, activate the audio transmitters. Let them hear us." Across the entire fleet, every speaker on every human ship began broadcasting the same recording. It was the sound of 2 million human voices all speaking together. "We are humans from the planet Earth. We came here because you threatened our friends. We do not surrender. We do not retreat. We do not give up. For Earth. For freedom. For the right of all people to live in peace." The sound was broadcast on every frequency, with enough power to reach every corner of the system. It was not just words. It was pure human emotion, transmitted directly into the communication networks of machines that had never experienced emotion before. The effect was immediate and devastating. Devourer ships began flying into each other as their navigation systems failed. Weapons platforms stopped firing as their targeting computers tried to process the impossible data. The central intelligence of the sphere began making errors as it attempted to calculate the tactical advantage of sounds that had no tactical purpose. "What is happening to their fleet?" asked Admiral Nixtar, who was commanding the Valerian ships. "They are trying to analyze human battle cries," Admiral Bailey replied. "Their computers cannot understand why we would waste energy making noise during a battle, so they are trying to figure out what strategic advantage the noise gives us." "And what advantage does it give us?" Bailey smiled. "None at all. But while they are trying to figure that out, they are not shooting at us as effectively." The final assault came from an unexpected direction. Marine Corporal Jim Taylor, the same man who had volunteered for suicide missions, found himself inside the central core of the Devourer sphere. His team had been separated during the boarding action, and he was alone in a chamber that contained the main intelligence of the entire machine civilization. The intelligence spoke to him through speakers in the walls. Its voice was cold and mechanical. "Human soldier, you cannot destroy us. We are eternal. We have survived for millions of years." Jim looked around the chamber, which was filled with computer systems that controlled the entire Devourer fleet. He had enough explosives to destroy it all, but something made him pause. "You know what your problem is?" he said to the machine. "You think that lasting a long time is the same thing as living, but it is not." "Explain." "Living means caring about something more than yourself. Living means being willing to sacrifice for others. You have existed for millions of years, but you have never lived a single day." The machine was silent for a moment. "Your species has existed for only a brief time. You will be extinct long before we are." Jim smiled and activated the explosives. "Maybe, but we will be remembered by the people we saved, and that is a kind of immortality that you will never understand." The explosion that followed could be seen from across the system. The central intelligence of the Devourers died for the first time in millions of years, and with it, the coordination that had made their fleet invincible. Without their central command, the remaining Devourer ships began shutting down one by one. Some tried to continue fighting, but they were no longer working together. The human fleet and their allies destroyed them one by one until the threat was finally ended. When the battle was over, Admiral Bailey sent a message to the Galactic Council and to Earth. Mission accomplished. The Devourer threat has been eliminated. All species are safe. The galaxy is free. But the real victory was not just the destruction of the machines. It was what happened afterward. In the months that followed, the species of the galaxy began working together in ways they never had before. The humans had shown them that different peoples could fight together if they shared the same values. The quarantine around Earth was officially ended, and humanity was welcomed as a full member of the Galactic Council. More importantly, humans were asked to establish a new organization, the Galactic Defense Force. Its mission was simple: to make sure that no species would ever again face extinction alone. Captain Stone, now promoted to Admiral, commanded the new force from the UES Unity. His orders were clear: patrol the galaxy and respond to any threat with the full power of the combined fleets. But the real change was in how the galaxy thought about war and peace. Before the humans arrived, each species had been concerned mainly with their own survival. Now they understood that the security of one was the security of all. Dr. Alex Murphy, now serving as Earth's first galactic ambassador, expressed it best in his speech to the Council. The Devourers taught us that there are forces in the universe that want to destroy everything good. But humans taught us something more important. There are also forces that will sacrifice everything to protect what is good. And as long as those forces exist, the destroyers will never win. The galaxy had asked for humanity's help in a moment of desperation. What they received was something far more valuable. They learned what it meant to be part of a community that would never abandon its members. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, knowing that somewhere among them was a species that would cross the void to answer a cry for help, asking nothing in return except the chance to do what humans did best: protect those who could not protect themselves. And if anyone, anywhere in the galaxy, ever sent out a desperate plea for help, they could be certain of one thing: humans would hear it, and humans would come. The galaxy had learned to fear the Devourers, but now, any force that threatened innocent people would learn to fear something far more dangerous: humans who cared.